The governor said last night that the administration's first response to the death of an American had been to apologize. Now, regardless of what someone may think of Governor Romney's statement, isn't it clear from the timeline that the heart of his attack was not accurate? That statement from the embassy was put out before the assault on it and before the assault on the consulate in Benghazi, and is a tweet by an embassy worker really a statement by the Obama administration?
Anderson, I thought you did a good job walking people through the timeline, and I'm glad to see that you put the piece up at the end where the administration, the officials in Egypt, which are our State Department, part of the Obama administration, reiterated support for that initial foolish, misguided statement after the attack took place. What I would have done if I was advising Mitt Romney was I would have made sure there was a clear reference to that that the administration stood by our Egyptian embassy's earlier statement. I think if they had done that, they'd have been on more solid ground. But I think Mitt Romney was making a broader, bigger point about the Obama administration policies.
Sorry, but was it the administration stand? Because the administration basically retracted the statement. That was the statement from the administration. It was the embassy which reiterated the statement and said, and we also criticized the breach of the embassy.
Well, it's a fine distinction, but I don't think you can separate an embassy from the administration. The embassy is a tool, arm of the administration. I say that in the benevolent sense of a tool. That is what administrations do. They have embassies that represent the administration.
But some embassy worker who's worried about getting attacked, is that really fair?
If it's good enough for the administration to disown the statement, it's good enough for Mitt Romney to also criticize the statement. It shouldn't be only one party gets to criticize the statement. They both should. That was a terrible statement. It represented American weakness, a retreat on American values. And the bigger point here is that when American officials make apologies to the Muslim world so we don't offend Muslim feelings, by backtracking on American values, it shows weakness and it invites more trouble. It doesn't avoid trouble.
Cornell, the Romney campaign says, look, the embassy was representing administration policy. They made this statement more than once, including their tweets. And if the administration didn't agree with them, they took way too long to say so, and that meant the White House was sending mixed signals.
Look, first, I think sort of we have to send our hearts and sympathy out to the brave Americans who died fighting to spread democracy. And that is something that should transcend politics. Here it didn't transcend politics, and quite frankly, it's a little bothersome that we're on national television talking about the partisan or the political aspect of this when we had Americans dying for trying to spread democracy for our country. Look, Mitt Romney showed incredibly poor judgment at a time when you should have been getting larger, getting bigger, showing leadership. You use this for a craven, partisan, myopic, misleading statement that was just about partisanship, and it is out of the pale. I mean, and it's really telling that you don't see a lot of Republicans, running to Mitt Romney, defense on this. McCain's silence on this is startling, and even the speaker's silence in this area is startling, is because it's something that should not be done. When Americans are dying for our country to spread freedom and democracy, we should not have partisan figures making partisan statements to try to gain political gain. His poor judgment disqualifies him to be president of the United States.
Ari, given that at that point last night at 10:25, whenever it was, full details weren't known. We didn't know if the threat of the attack was still going on. We knew one person was dead. We didn't know if they were American citizen, who they were. We didn't know it was the ambassador. We didn't know the other people had died as well. Should he have just waited? I mean, is it inappropriate in the heat of a political campaign to weigh in when American lives are in the balance?
Well, that's a great question, but let me remind people about what John Kerry said about George Bush in 2004, and certainly what Barack Obama said about John McCain and George Bush in 2008. Cornell has an interesting new standard that in 2012, the Republican candidate should not weigh in at a time when there are deaths, talking about the important differences in foreign policy approaches. Yet certainly that is exactly what John Kerry did regularly to George Bush, as was his right while people were dying in Iraq and Afghanistan, as it was Barack Obama's right. But I don't remember people criticizing either John Kerry or Barack Obama for criticizing the Bush and or McCain foreign policy. In fact, in July 2008, 9 servicemen were killed in one day in Afghanistan. On that very day, Barack Obama weighed in to criticize George Bush and John McCain's foreign policy. And I don't remember any of this media double standard saying to Senator Obama, isn't it inappropriate for you to criticize the foreign policy of the person you're running against on the day when people died? It's a double standard, Anderson.
Is it the same thing, though? Because, I mean, that's an ongoing war where, if you say you can't comment anything about an ongoing war, it goes on for years at a time and you can't make any statements. This is a thing where hours matter and we don't know if if people are alive or dead. We don't know if the attack is still going on.
Anderson, this has been a 20-year war against Muslim terrorists who attack our country. We were struck 4 times in the Clinton administration, once in the Bush administration, and now once in the Obama administration. This is an ongoing war, too.
Okay.
Debates about foreign policy are an absolute vital part of our democracy. And I don't know why the media is rushing to criticize Mitt Romney for criticizing a foreign policy when they did not do that to Barack Obama or John Kerry when they exercised their right to criticize Republican foreign policy.
Cornell?
Two quick things. One is apples and oranges. You know, that's just not a fair comparison. And a fairer comparison would be what Democrats did directly after 9/11. And you know, on the 12th, you had statements by people like Hillary Clinton, who at that time was then Senator Clinton, and seen as a very partisan figure, who said, "We stand united behind the president." That's a leadership. That's what leaders are supposed to do. The other part of this, which is now disturbing, is it's okay to sort of say that mistakes were made. You know, as people who work in this industry, you know, we sort of have a responsibility to be caretakers of this industry. And when we just follow, you know, our partisan leaders down whatever partisan dark rabbit hole they tend to go to, you know, we get the sort of politics that we have now. And I think that